Thanks so much to all of you who joined and stayed and listened to me reading earlier today. Like promised, I said I would read the next chapter of The Secret Zoo in this YouTube video. So, stay tuned to this. It is 5 pages long. And then after I'm finished reading, you're going to get to watch me and Miss Emily make some banana bread. So we use lots of different types of measurement for that. And if you have a banana bread recipe at home and your parents are okay with you making it, I would love to get some feedback on what yours was like. But for now, Chapter 8, Creepy Critters. After school the next day, the scouts raced down Walker Boulevard toward the zoo. Once inside, they ran towards the back, dodging benches and cutting through buildings as they headed for an exhibit called Creepy Critters. Creepy Critters had over 300 aquariums of different sizes, shapes, and purposes. Each aquarium held things that were slimy, or scaly, or hairy, or generally creepy in some regard. Things like snakes, lizards, spiders, fish, and even cockroaches, as big and thick as adult thumbs. In no time, the scouts crossed the zoo and entered the exhibit. Creepy Critters had a bizarre design. The building seemed to be a hapless collection of zigzagging hallways. Aquariums were set in every wall, and it felt as if the building was made of giant glass bricks. The concrete spots between the aquarium were covered in fake slime, mold, web, and cocoons. Plastic vines and goopy gunk dangled from the ceiling. Children raced alongside the aquariums, pausing at each one just long enough to peer inside and leave fingerprints on the glass. Their parents strolled behind them with bundles of jackets slung over their arms. Sounds rebounded from the hard glass walls like noises in a cave. The scouts found a spot on an open bench. The aquarium in front of them was filled with tiny, bright pink frogs resting on branches and mossy rocks, splotches of color on a green canvas. "Okay, Noah," Richie said. "Let's see the note from Blizzard again." Noah pulled the crinkled note from his pocket and smoothed it against his knee. He read aloud. "And I hardly believe it, even after seeing it myself. It's as if my mind doesn't want to believe what I saw. Does that make sense? It makes sense when I write it, and I guess that's all that matters. But I wish I knew better words and could describe things better. I wish I had Richie's big brain." "Finally," Richie said as he tapped his fingers on the paper, "a person who knows a genius when she sees it." "Quiet, Richie," Ella said. "This is important." Noah turned the page over. "Anyway, none of that matters because I'll sort this out later. What matters is what I saw in Creepy Critters today. There's an exhibit called the Chamber of Lights. It's at the end of a long hall. It's nothing but a dark room the size of a closet. There's a big aquarium in there filled with tiny fish. The fish are called flashlight fish, and they blink like fireflies. Today, I saw someone." The page ended. Noah stuffed the note back into his pocket. "Well," he said, "what do you guys make of that?" "Something important is obviously in that exhibit," Ella said. "But what?" Richie asked. "There's one way to find out," Noah said, rising to his feet. He was a single step down the hall when he stopped and fixed his eyes on the aquarium that housed the pink frogs. "Guys, look," he said. Lined up along the window, side by shiny pink side, the frogs were crowded in the front of the aquarium, a few remaining perched along the branch, but even those were staring directly at the scouts. Ella gasped and inched to the window, sliding the flats of her feet along the floor. Noah and Richie moved in behind her, each boy peering over one of her shoulders. The frogs began to hop. They sprang forward off their back legs and slid down the glass aquarium, exposing their bright pink underbellies and twiggy, outstretched legs. Their white eyes, like round Christmas tree bulbs, were locked on the scouts. "I don't believe this," Noah said, but deep inside, he did believe this. In fact, after everything he'd been through, he almost expected this. "They see us," Richie said. "No," Ella said. "They know us." Ella was right. The animals, from Marlowe to Mr. Talltail to Blizzard to the pink frogs trapped into this tank, recognized Noah, Ella, and Richie. Noah didn't understand why or how, but he was certain that it had something to do with Megan. Ella reached out and touched the glass. The frogs leaped towards her fingertips. They seemed drawn to her hand the way scrapes of steel are drawn to a magnet. She slid her fingertips along the glass, and the frogs hopped towards them, climbing, rolling, and spring off one another. No way, Noah said. The scene reminded him of a plasma ball, an extraordinary clear ball in which threads of lightning streak towards the glass the second your fingertips touch the surface. Ella seemed to control the frogs just as a person could control those tiny strands of lightning. She yanked her hand off the glass and backed away. What? Richie said. What's wrong? We'd better not draw any attention to ourselves, Ella warned. You're right, Noah said. We don't need any attention, especially from creepy zoo workers. Richie nodded, and they walked deeper into the exhibit. A few minutes later, Ella pointed to a small room. It protruded out into the space of the hall, its one side flush with a wall of aquariums. The room had a single purpose, to provide a dark viewing area for the aquarium along its wall. The room looked out of the place with the aquarium set in the walls. There, she said. That's the Chamber of Lights. Richie and Noah nodded. The scouts knew the exhibit from previous visits. They turned, walked a third of the way down the hall, and stopped abruptly. Their eyes swelled. Richie's lips quivered. All the animals were staring at them from the tank on either side. Snakes slithered near the front of the enclosure, their flickering tongues lapping the air. Tree frogs bounced on branches, there still, bulbous eyes fixed outward. Fish idled along the front boundaries of their tanks, their sides turned as each stared out with one eye. Lizards leaned against the glass, their gazes pointed at the scouts. Come on, Noah said. Ignore it. Just keep moving. They rushed down the hall. Even without looking at the animals, Noah knew that 100 beady eyes were fixed on him and his friends. He could feel them. They reached the Chamber of Lights. A black velvet curtain with gold rings hung over its entrance. Let's check it out, Noah said. Ella took a deep breath, and Richie shook the nervousness of his body. Together, the scouts pushed the curtain aside and entered the small room. An aquarium was set inside the wall, facing the entrance. The room was small, the size of a large closet. Richie closed the curtain behind them, and the room was enveloped in darkness. The flashlight fish started to blink, and Noah was reminded of a magical night sky filled with winking stars. He tried to move around and realized how utterly dark the room was. Richie, he said, open the curtain. Richie threw back the curtain, and the darkness huddled in a long shadow on the far side of the room. Look around, Noah said. See if you see anything. The walls and ceilings were draped in more black velvet fabric. Other than that, the room was simple, and there was nothing unusual about the tank. I don't see anything, Ella said. Noah slipped his palm along the wall. Something in here grabbed Megan's attention. He said. And what? Richie asked. Nothing in here but fish. Wait a minute, Ella said. The expression on her face changed several times as she rummaged through her thoughts. I wonder if we're looking in the wrong place. What? Noah said. Megan specifically said, maybe she saw whatever she saw from outside this place. Ella said. Noah and Richie were quiet as they tried to grasp what she was getting at. Come on, Ella said. Follow me. And that's exactly what Noah and Richie did. Bum, bum, bum! The Secrets of the Chamber of Lights, Chapter 9. Stay tuned.
Go.
Hello, third graders. Like I promised, me and Miss Emily are going to be back in the kitchen making some awesome food. We're making banana bread because we're loving our snacking during this quarantine. It's super good. But before I start, we're doing my banana bread recipe, which is a Betty Crocker recipe. And I always grew up making my banana bread in loaf form. And then one time I told Miss Emily I was making banana bread, and she gave me a Joanna Gaines recipe book, and we made it in this shape container. So, come to find out, Southern recipes sometimes are different, and that's okay. They're both equally delicious, and so today we're going to do the Betty Crocker one. I have it pulled up on my computer, but I have all the ingredients in front of me. So I mushed up 4 bananas. They're really, really rotten. I think the more rotten they are, the better the banana bread. And then we got our melted butter. It required 1/3 cup softened butter, and I had these weird little short butter sticks, so I had to do a little extra math, converting tablespoons to cups to cut. Our dry ingredients in here, 1 cup of sugar. My dry ingredients, I needed 1 2/3. I used my 2/3 measuring cup, or 1/3 measuring cup. and I did it 5 times because 3/3 is a whole, and then I needed 2 more thirds. So I did 5 of these to get my my flour over there. And then we also have 2 eggs. So I'm gonna let Miss Emily do all the mixing and whatnot, and then we'll pop it in the oven. And the thing with banana bread, so that it gets cooked all the way through, it has to be in the oven for quite a long time. So we'll tune you back in for that as well.
Hello, everybody. It's been a minute since we've gotten to hang out. I hope you're doing well. Miss Stephanie has asked that I put this together. I've never made this version of this recipe before, so we're all gonna learn something together. So we're gonna follow the directions, and they seem pretty simple, so I think that's gonna be a good start. We already preheated the oven to 350 degrees. We put like that spray stuff in this so it'll pop out nicely, it doesn't get stuck to the bottom. Then it says to mix sugar and butter. So we have our little funny dead butter pieces there. Did you soften these?
I did. Yep. I put them in the microwave. 15 seconds.
This is a perpetual argument that happens in our friendship because Miss Heiser likes to wait until she's baking, and then she puts the butter in the microwave, and it stresses me out, and I will get it out hours ahead of time so it can warm up on the counter. Do you guys have a preference? What do your parents do? You should let us know in the comments. Okay, so we're gonna beat this together. I'm not gonna talk while I'm doing it because it's gonna be loud, and if you remember anything from our cookie video, sometimes this part gets a little out of control, so stay tuned. Right, so we managed to do that part without too much of a mess. It's always a little bit of a mess, but that's okay. That's what makes baking fun. Next thing we're gonna do is crack these eggs into a separate bowl. I also did it this way when we did our cookie video, and the goal of breaking them into a separate bowl is that if you get any little baby shell pieces, they don't get in the rest of what you're baking, because who wants banana bread with chunky bits? Not this household, that's for sure. So we'll take our 2 eggs, throw them in there. Not throwing, throwing's bad. A nice gentle toss, if you will. Gonna mix these friends in. That one went much more successfully. So, we've done that.
I think we add the bananas next.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay, good, because your password is needed, and I don't know what it is. Do you know vanilla in this?
You can always add some.
What? I think I will. I'm going to go off recipe. So here we go. You guys heard it first. I think vanilla flavoring makes everything taste better. Your pancakes and your banana bread. So we just added, that was like mushed up bananas. I know they look gross. That's okay.
The grosser the better.
Water. The grosser the better. Now we're going to head into the pantry and add some vanilla. Now vanilla is kind of funny. When I was you guys' age, I thought it smelled so good I wanted to try it plain one day. Vanilla extract does not taste as good as it smells, and it's very bitter. So don't try that. May my mistake save you that gross flavor. So here we go. We're gonna mix it all in. Soupy. Okay, so this is the make or break part we're gonna do next. We are going to add the dry ingredients. So Miss Heiser already took the time. You mixed together flour, salt I saw. What else was
Baking soda and baking powder.
Baking soda and baking powder. All right, so we have a leavener and a chemical reactant, which will help it to poof up when we bake this. Now, what's so crucial about this part when you're making banana bread, guys and gals, is the gluten development. Okay, this is some advanced stuff. Are you paying attention? Have you guys ever watched your parents make bread or like a dinner roll, something where you have like a really solid dough and they have to knead it a bunch and work it a long time? When you're doing that, you're developing gluten strands, which is what gives it that structure and keeps it nice and sturdy. Like think about the structure of a really hard bread like this one. I didn't make this, my grandma did because she's a nice lady. When you're making something like this, you want it to be a lot more tender, delicate. So we have to be careful not to mix it for too long. Otherwise, it'll start to get really tough. And while that's a delicious quality in a white bread or a wheat bread, it is a less than desirable attribute of your banana bread.
See, I'm learning new stuff every day.
There you go. This is why our friendship works so well.
Mm-hmm.
Now we just pray I don't get on myself. So if you ever see a recipe that says just mix to combine, it's telling you not to over mix it so it doesn't get super tough. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to kind of keep the mixer on a low setting and just mix it until it's combined. It's going to be a little lumpy. That's okay. That's just the different pieces of a banana, which will provide all the moisture and most of the flavor. So put those there. Move this to the side. Move this here. Make sure I got all those little bottom pieces. We're gonna put it in here. Our very undeveloped gluten strands will stay nice and tender. You talk about that at dinner. Be like, how developed are the gluten strands in your rolls, Mom? She'll be so amazed. She might have to look it up. You'd be like, wow, what did you learn in 3rd grade?
During your chronocation?
Yeah. How about gluten strands? All right. So the final thing we have to do with this is put it in the oven. So it said 350 degrees for 55 to 60 minutes, I believe. And I will show you a fun trick to test how done something is before we pull it out. But now Miss Heiser's going to make me clean up the kitchen. So I'll see you guys.
It's a conjoined effort.
Yeah, she'll help because she doesn't always like the way I do it. But that's what friendship is. We support each other and help one another. All right? Maybe you pause the video now and you go help your mom clean something up. How about that? Catch you back here. For you, it'll be like 20 seconds. For me, it's an hour. See you in a bit. Welcome back. For you, it's probably been like 5 seconds. And for me, I've done all the dishes with Miss Heiser and started a new show. Our banana bread is out of the oven. But before we leave it out to cool, we need to check for how done it is. So just grab a toothpick and insert it to the middle. Careful not to burn yourself. And then pull it back out. Because the toothpick is totally clean, we know that it's done. If it had little pieces of like undercooked banana bread on it, we'd have to put it back in for a few minutes. But I would say that this one is pretty perfect. So we're going to leave it here on the stove to cool, and we might get to have some for dessert after dinner tonight. Check back with Miss Heiser to see if it was any good, all right? Thanks for tuning in, guys.